Our next unit of study consists of Notan, which is a Japanese term that refers to dark, light, black, white. And it's a matter of balancing the masses of black and white, light and darkness in a design. And this concept was introduced in the United States by a man named Ernest Fenollosa, who worked at the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston. And a student at the museum, Arthur Wesley Dow, came to meet Fenollosa and began to discover this concept of Notan. Now Dow writes a book several years later called Composition, and that's what we're going to look at today, his book on composition, and as a method to understand this balance of black and white. And this is different than the Western concept of form modeling, which can be summed up in the term chiaroscuro, coined by Leonardo da Vinci. So this Notan is in direct contrast to that. The Japanese are trying to get a sense of harmony and balance, whereas Western culture is interested in revealing form. Okay, so let's talk about Dow's design that we're going to use. We're going to use his landscape design here. It's number 34 in his book. And it's a very simple design, okay? And what we're going to do with this design is we're going to convert it into a black-white Notan, all right? Now this example of the boats is by Arthur Wesley Dow from his book. And I've given this example in our lesson on bright space, okay? So let's look at his designing of the Notan. This is exactly the same drawing, 3 different times, but the balance of the black and the white is totally different, okay? We see in the first one that this is more typical of how we experience the masses in reality. The ground is light, the reflection on the water is light, the reflection on the boat is dark, the sky is darker, landscape is light, okay? Here it's almost the negative of the first one, all right? So it's mostly dark with very little light. And then this one is mostly light with a dark area in the middle. But they give a different feeling in each image, but it's exactly the same line drawing, okay? So here we're going to do the landscape, and what you're going to do is you're going to do 2 versions of this landscape, all right? And you're basically going to trace this landscape, and then we're going to convert it to a black and white harmony relationship, okay? So let's talk about this landscape. All right. Now, Dow drew this landscape with a Chinese brush. So what you'll notice is that the line varies, the width of the line varies, and is very rhythmic all the way through. He also includes a border, and you're going to include a border also, all right? So we go to trace this. All right, here's my tracing. You're going to trace each side of that line in the design, okay? And you can see it in my tracing here. I'm on one side of the line, and then I'm tracing the other side of the line. And I want you to be careful about this tracing because part of the interest in this landscape is the character of the line and how he varies the width. And he was only able to do that by using a brush. So we want to kind of mimic that sense of the brush in the design, okay? That's what gives it interest. So you're going to trace it. You can trace it if you have a piece of tracing paper, okay, or a piece of tissue paper. But here's another simple way to do it if you don't have those things. All right. Here's my landscape, and here's my paper where it's going to be drawn on. You can put the landscape behind the paper and line it up. You're going to do 2 images on top of each other, all right? So you're going to line up one toward the top and put it against a window, and you'll be able to see the design right through the piece of paper in order to trace it, okay? You can use a light board also if that's something that you have at home. But the easiest way is on a window, landscape first, finished paper, trace on this, okay? And what we're going to do is, since we're going to do 2 copies of this, you're going to put one up high and one down low. 2 tracings of it, okay? And you'll see here I have this one on the upper section, and then I'm going to move it and trace it again on the lower part of the paper, okay? Next, I want to talk about after you trace it, okay, you're going to start filling in the design, right? And what you need to remember when you start working with the black and white design is that if you have black against black, you will not be able to see one part versus another. You're always going to need some kind of white in between 2 blacks, or black between 2 whites, okay? So, just like Dow shows us the ropes on the sailboat here, he leaves white around it so we can actually see the ropes, okay? Here it's not necessary because it's just black against white, all right? Same thing with the reflection, right? If he has the water dark and the foreground plane dark, he's going to need the white in the pattern so that we can see the difference, okay? So that's the reason that we have to draw on both sides of the outlines, because that will give us a choice. Do we want that outline to be white, or do we want that outline to be black, okay? And when you go to lay in your areas, there's a certain marker technique I want you to use. You can use a thick marker. This is a Sharpie, and you can use a skinny marker. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a micron. Could be a Pilot or any marker that's at home. Could be Crayola if that's what you have. Okay? And when you go to lay in the marker, I don't want you laying it in like this to fill in an area. Okay? What you're going to do is you're going to lay in parallel diagonal lines. So you're going to fill in that area, parallel diagonal lines, okay? Because what you're going to notice with the marker is you can always see the stroke in the marker, okay? And if you keep it the same direction, it'll appear unified and appear more like a black mass rather than something you've just filled in, okay? So I want to show you some of the designs that I've used as a demonstration, okay? So here's the 2 landscapes, all right? We had another class had previously done apples, but we're not doing that in this class. So this is my one version of the design, right? Sometimes I've created silhouettes with those trees, okay? And then other times I've separated the foliage versus the trunk, okay? You have to think about the black and white masses in a spatial sense, okay? You can have like trees in the background falling into the darkness and trees in the foreground appearing light, or vice versa. It doesn't matter. The far hills can be light or dark. You know, in this case they're dark. Down here it is white but outlined in dark, so it can be seen against the light of the sky or the ground plane. Okay? So you're going to do 2 versions. They're to be different. They don't have to be negative and positive. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in a balance of black and white, light and dark harmony.